How's it going, guys? So, we got 1990s Tales from the Darkside, the movie, obviously adapted from the series of the same name that was George Romero was executive producer on in the mid to late 80s. I was never a Tales from the Darkside guy, with the show. Never really watched many episodes of it. I was more of a Tales from the Crypt person. But we got John Harrison directing here, he did the music for the first Creepshow, and he does the music in this also, as well as directing. And music, the score is great in this. Nowhere near as iconic as Creepshow, but very, very good. And this is the real Creepshow 3. You talk to any horror fan who's a fan of the Creepshow movies, and they'll all say the same thing. This is Creepshow 3. Not that bullshit we got in 2000 something that was just terrible, that had no relation to Stephen King or Romero or anyone involved with the first two Creepshows. So this will always be Creepshow 3 for me. And it's great. It's another great 3 segments that we get here. And we have the wraparound, which is fun too, with the witch who has little Timmy locked up in her pantry that she's fattening up with cookies in order to cook him for dinner that night with her fellow witches. And she gave him the book Tales from the Darkside, and he was reading some stories out of it, and he starts distracting her and trying to buy himself time before he is cooked and eaten with 3 tales of the macabre from Tales from the Darkside. So we got the first story here, is Lot 249, and what a cast in this, man. We got Christian Slater, which I love Christian Slater. I said this a few videos ago when I mentioned this, that I was going to do this movie, that I always looked at him as a young Jack Nicholson. He had such great acting chops, man, and he still does. Like I said in that video, I don't know much he's been in recently. I think he was on Mr. Robot, the show, for a little bit, but you don't see him much anymore, which is unfortunate because he is a great, great actor. True Romance, Very Bad Things, which is a favorite of mine. So many, The Heathers, he's been in so many things, in the 90s and early 2000s. Such a great actor. We have Steve Buscemi in here. Blow the bomb, Harry, we're with you. I fucking love Steve Buscemi, and we got a young, sexy Julianne Moore in this. What more do you need? So we got this Penrose scholarship that Bellingham, Buscemi's character, lost to Lee, who's played by just some guy we don't know. That I don't know, at least. But stole it from him and his girlfriend, who's Andy, Christian Slater's sister, which is played by Julianne Moore. If that didn't confuse you, it confused me a bit, so go back 10 seconds. And she basically wrote her boyfriend Lee's paper for him, for this scholarship, and put in an anonymous tip and stole from the museum on campus the little Zuni fetish statue and blamed it on Bellingham. So he lost the scholarship to Lee because of that. And I love Buscemi's line when Lee asks him, well, did you take it? And he's just like, I loathe the Zuni aesthetics. That's such a great line, man. Anything from Steve Buscemi is fucking amazing. And the mummy's design in this is awesome. It looks really cool. The face on it. Even Andy says, he looks pissed off. He does, man. This mummy looks like he's out for fucking vengeance. And he absolutely starts getting it. And then he ends up digging into his, cutting open the stomach of the mummy and doing a whole dissection of it and pulling out the flowers and everything they put in there, onions and all that shit. And he finds this scroll that's I forgot what he says, Third Kingdom Egyptian hieroglyphics or something like that. And says that he doesn't know what it says, but then we find out he does know how to read hieroglyphics, and he reads this scroll and he unleashes this mummy to get revenge for him on Lee and Susan for screwing him out of this scholarship. And how often do you get to see a dead mummy pull the brains out of a living human being? Not often. So, very cool stuff with that whole death scene. And he grabs a tennis racket. He hears the mummy, break the glass and stuff to get into his apartment. He grabs a tennis racket. You can barely kill a fly with a tennis racket. let alone a fucking ancient mummy who's come back to life. He couldn't grab like a knife from the kitchen at least, or anything, like anything other than a tennis racket, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Fucking a tennis racket is not going to help you in any situation, especially this one. Like, at least you grab a fucking toaster is better than a fucking tennis racket. Grab a toaster, at least it's harder. Smash that against this mummy's head over and over again. It'll just crumble into dust, like we see later. And then when Susan sees Lee's brains in the fruit bowl, awesome. Like, really, really cool. This whole movie, all 3 segments, are just so much fun, like, watching these. And I forgot how much I enjoyed this movie. It's been a while since I saw this. And forgot a decent amount. And as I kept going through it and watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This is fucking awesome. Like, how the hell did I forget about how good this movie is? And now I know for another few years until I forget how great it is and I have to go and rewatch it again. So I will not mind it because this movie is awesome. And then the mummy comes and he slashes Susan's back, like her dress open, and then like slashes her back wide open and sticks the flowers in her back that she said she hates so much. Awesome. Like, the gore in this movie and the effects are very, very good. Like, not so much in this first one because there's not a lot of it, but like in the next 2 segments, like, very good effects. Like, I was really surprised. Again, I didn't remember a lot of this. So when I was seeing some of the gore scenes and stuff, I was like, damn, like, really good job here. Like, this might have the best gore out of the 3 movies. Out of the first 2 Creepshows and this, might be this. And that's saying something with Savini doing the effects on the first movie. Really, really cool stuff. And then Andy has like no reaction when he gets there and sees his sister fucking stuffed with flowers and wrapped like a crude mummy. Like, he just like leans next to her and says like, Jesus. And then like, that's it. Like, no, like, oh my God, my sister. Like nothing. Like, I mention this all the time in like every other fucking movie like that I watch because people don't pay attention to reactions, I guess, in movies. Like, they don't direct these actors to like act in a realistic way or anything like that. It's your sister, and she's been stuffed with flowers like a fucking mummy and wrapped up like one. And you have no reaction except Jesus? I don't know. Fucking Jesus ain't saving, helping in any way, man. Then he ends up tying up Billingham, and that's his name, right? Yeah, Billingham. He ends up tying him up and doesn't realize that it's the mummy at first. He thinks that it's Bellingham just killing his sister and Lee. And then he starts reciting the hieroglyphics and everything, this curse or spell or whatever it is to bring the mummy back to life. And Christian Slater comes prepared, man. He comes with a battery-operated kitchen knife and stuff and starts chopping the mummy's arm off and his leg off, and chops his head off and starts burning all the pieces of this mummy, thinking that all is well and that they've contained the situation. And Bellingham is kicked out of school for stealing the piece that he didn't really steal, the fetish Zuni thing. And watching this was funny, hearing like the Zuni stuff, and it reminded me of Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black and the Zuni doll in the last segment. So now I'm thinking I gotta rewatch that like soon and do that movie, because that is such a great anthology too. Like, the first 2 segments are kind of meh, but everyone knows the Zuni doll one with Karen Black being chased and around by the Zuni doll. Awesome stuff. And we find out that the scroll that Bellingham told Andy was in the drawer. It was not actually the real scroll that came with the mummy, and that it was some, I forget what he says when he was driving in the cab. He's laughing like a maniac, and the cab driver's like, what's so funny? And he's like, no, there's just this guy I'm thinking of. He can't tell the difference between like hieroglyphics and like something porn, like some like ancient porn or some shit like that, he says. I don't know, but it's fucking funny. And he reads the real scroll, and then we have Lee and Susan appear at Andy's door, all with tools, ready to, I guess, rip his brain through his nose and turn him into a makeshift mummy. And that's the end of that segment. Fun segment. Like, it's really fun. That's the one I remember the most. Like, when I was rewatching this, like, I remembered most of it, and probably because you have Slater and Buscemi and Julianne Moore in this, like, I don't know, something about that segment, like, I stuck out with me from the first time I saw this movie, so I remembered that one definitely the most out of these. But I think I like the next two better. And we'll move on to number two, the segment number two, when we have little Timmy, right before we jump into this one, he's trying to buy more time, and she said the witch tells him that he told the story very well, and that she should probably get him into the oven soon, that he begs to tell this next story, so we get the second segment here, Cat from Hell, which is a Stephen King story. I think the other two were what, by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle? Pretty sure on that. Watch me check after this and be like, yeah, this didn't even contain any of the same letters as that fucking name I said. And we have Mark Margolis in here, who played the assassin in Scarface / Hector Salamanca in Breaking Bad, and so many other things. Requiem for a Dream, he's the pawn guy. This guy's been in so many fucking things. And he plays one of the 4 characters in this house that was killed by this hellacious cat from hell. A little redundant. This terrifying cat from hell. There we go. And we have Old Man Drogon, and he wants Holston, who's a hitman, to take a hit out on this cat. Which is ridiculous when you think about it. And same reaction from the hitman. He's just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, right? Like, you want me to kill a cat for $100,000. And then he starts going into the story on why he thinks this cat is a killer cat and evil and from the bowels of hell, and that the cat just showed up one day, and then his sister Amanda took him in and started feeding him and everything, and he hung around the house, and then slowly, one by one, each one at midnight, one of them would end up being killed by this cat. And we have Amanda, the sister of Drogon, that was tripped by the cat and fell down the big ass staircase and breaks her neck and dies, which even the hitman questions. It says like, it's an accident. It doesn't mean the cat did it. And Drogon is hellbent. I know it was the cat. I know he absolutely did it. He killed my sister. Then we have Caroline, which that name could be completely wrong. It could be something like with a completely different letter at the beginning and like a bunch of other letters mixed around in there that aren't anything to do with Caroline. Because I'm pretty sure I heard that when he was saying it, and I wrote it down, but now I'm thinking about it, her name might not be Caroline at all. So whatever her name is, for this purpose, the purposes of this video, her name is Caroline. And her being smothered by the cat is fucking hysterical. Like the whole way that's shot, with the cat just coming up on her and he's just like smothered on her face and like he just won't let go and she just fucking like just dies, like she can't breathe. Like, I don't know, man. It's so ridiculous, this whole premise, but it's fucking hilarious, this thing. And then Gage, Mark Margolis' character, was going to take the cat to a veterinary place to have him put down for good, and on the drive over there, right at the stroke of midnight, the cat scratches him on the face, and we get it. It's a cool camera work, like with the way that like the car flips over and he gets in the car accident and dies. Like they kind of just like rotated the camera over and over again. Like it's kind of weird in a way, but like it's cool camera work. I enjoyed that, the shots of that. And the whole idea of a drug company testing a drug out on cats for 4 years and killing like 5,000 cats, and then having this specific cat come for revenge on the owner of the drug company, I gotta hand it to King, man. That's fucking brilliant. Like, that's a pretty good fucking idea. Like, as ridiculous as it is, pretty good idea. Having a cat come back to avenge all his relatives and shit. 5,000 of them. And I like all the POV shots from the cat's perspective in this. Like, the way this segment is shot is very well done. Like, with the cat's point of view, and it's like black and light. It's black and light, that's what it is. Together, it's black, but it's a light black. It's black and white, and then you have like the purple color, like on the edge of like his vision. Really cool, and a lot of like near the end of the segment is shot like that, and it's really, really good looking. And the cat ends up scratching his nuts and mauling the hell out of his fucking genitals. And this guy, man, this hitman is all over this house. Like, he's fucking getting drunk. He's fucking saying, I've never failed on a hit before. Like, there's no way I'm failing on you, you fucking little motherfucker. And he's like cursing, screaming at this cat. And he's got a laser scope on his fucking rifle. He's on his gun that he tries shooting the cat with. And it, like, apparently goes right through the cat and shoots the TV. So this is like a ghost cat or something. We never find out what exactly the cat is, nor does it really matter. But the effects at the end of this segment, man, with the fucking cat jumping down his throat and just like the way that it's like keeps going further down his mouth and his throat is bulging, and then like it gets down to his stomach starts like blowing up a little bit from the cat going down. Awesome. Like, the effects look so good for that. And then when Drogon comes back the next day and stuff, and the cat has to climb back out of his stomach through his mouth and stuff. Looks so good. Like, the effects, like I said, in this movie are great. And I was very surprised by that because I did not remember that. But really, really cool effects work with the cat going in and out of the hitman's throat. And he ends up just giving Drogon a heart attack. He didn't have to really work hard in the end. He just fucking jumped on his lap and like meowed in his face a few times, and he was trying to take his heart pills, and he ended up just fucking having a heart attack and dying. So the cat got his revenge on the whole Drogon drug company. And that leads us to, there's not a lot to talk about in this movie, because, I don't know, it's not like complex plot lines or like theories that you can go off on, so it's kind of just running through these, but awesome movie. If I say this all the time, if anyone's watching this who hasn't seen the movie, for some reason, like, check out the movie. Like, stop this and go watch the movie, then come back here. But awesome movie. And we got story number 3, Lover's Vow. This is probably my favorite one, and this is one that I remembered the least from this. But I mean, the whole like little twist near the end, it's so obvious. Like, I don't think there's anybody who watches this who can't figure out exactly what's going on. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like, and it's not like they were really trying either to like keep it like a reveal or anything near the end. But they could have a little bit more, like instead of just having Carola just like show up right after this whole event happens to Preston. I don't know, they could have kind of made the reveal a little more surprising, but it is what it is, and it's fine for what it is. And so we have Preston, who was played by James Remar, or Remar, however you say his name, Dexter's father on Dexter, and Raiden from Mortal Kombat and Annihilation, right? He wasn't Raiden in the first one. Whatever. Whoever seen the first 2 Mortal Kombat movies back in the 90s, you know what I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure it's Annihilation. The terrible one. The first one was the good one. Second movie is terrible. And he's a struggling artist, and he gets dropped by his agent because his work, it just isn't selling, it's not making money, and he doesn't know what the hell to do. So he's pissed drunk, and him and the bartender go out, and the bartender's gonna give him a ride home, and awesome gore in this too, man. Like when the gargoyle comes down, before you even see what it is, and you just see the bartender's hand get ripped off and fall to the ground, and then he just gets decapitated, and it looks fucking pleasant. It looks so good. It looks so fucking good. And we get a glimpse of the gargoyle and the way that it's talking to Preston's character and saying that, you promised not to tell anybody about me, what you saw here, or anything that happened, what I did, and he's in shock, obviously. Like, he's drunk 3 sheets to the wind, so and me in that situation, I would be questioning what the fuck I'm even looking at. But he promises, and I like how the gargoyle says, like, cross your heart, and scratches the shit out of his chest, and he promises. He says, yeah, I promise I will not tell anybody. And he keeps his promise for a decent amount of time. And then right after that, he ends up meeting Carola, who's this girl who was in the neighborhood. Says she was looking for her friends, and she got lost. So she ends up going up with Preston to his apartment. And I like the little, I don't even know what to call it. Just like little details of like him thinking about telling what happened, like with him calling the cops. Like with Carola when she first comes up there, and you hear the cop on the other line, but then like he rethinks it, and he ends up hanging up. And like him making a drawing of the gargoyle a little later on, and then ends up ripping that up. Like, you could see him struggling with this secret. And I really like that little touch they threw in there. That like, this isn't something you can just forget about. Like, are you serious? Like, fucking seeing a gargoyle come down from the sky and fucking decapitate your bartender. And then fucking talking to you and telling you to promise never to say what you saw then and stuff. It's not something you're gonna fucking forget. And I like the way they address that with like just the small little details of him wanting to, like, needing to get this off his chest, and then just rethinking it and saying, well, like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen if I break that promise. So forget it, I can't say anything. Cool stuff. And then he meets Carola, he fucks Carola, and then she ends up getting him into the best gallery in the city. And his little career takes off. We jump 10 years later down the road after they've been like married for 10 years. They have 2 beautiful kids, and they couldn't be happier. And my camera looks like it's fucking up. Maybe it did, but if it did, haunted sauna, ghost effects, and all that shit. That was the disturbance on the camera just now. And yeah, 10 years later, he has the 2 kids with her, and he's been living this successful career as an artist, and had just complete marital bliss with her, loves this girl to death, and they're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the night they met. And what a weird fucking line, man, when one of their kids says to Carola when she's saying about the night they met, and she's like, oh, then you mean the night that you thought Daddy was gonna rape you and threw you up against a wall? Like, how does she know that? Like, that whole story? Like, she really told her daughter that story? I mean, yeah, they're not really human or anything, we find out, but like, still, like, you're gonna say, like, yeah, well, how did you and Daddy meet? Like, well, I was walking down the street and I was gonna go meet my friends, but I was lost. And then Daddy just brought me into an alleyway, and I thought he was gonna throw me up against a wall and rape me, child. But that's not what happened. He turned out being a great guy, and that's how you 2 were born. Like, who says that to a kid that you fucking thought their father was gonna rape her? Like, come on, that's so fucking weird, man. And then he ends up finally getting this secret off his chest, and he wants to share the truth with her, which in any normal fucking relationship, this would be a good thing. This would be him being honest with his wife and sharing everything with her, including the truth of the night that he met her. But not in this situation. It turns out being not in his favor at all, telling her this and showing her the little sculpture that he made of the gargoyle, and ends up breaking his vow to Carola, who we find out is the gargoyle from that night. And just, dude, the transformation scene of her transforming into the gargoyle, awesome. It looks so good. Like, it really does. Like, I was so shocked by how good the effects in this movie are. Like, I did not remember them being this good. And they are very, very good to look at. And then him pleading with her and stuff, like, to just turn back, like, I love you and everything. And him saying, like, the gargoyle saying, I can't. Like, at this point, it's already, you sealed our fate. And then just seeing the kids come out as gargoyles. So, makes you wonder that in that moment, like before he gets his throat ripped out by her, gotta be one of the first thoughts he's having, right? Is, I've been fucking a gargoyle for the last decade. Right? Like, seriously? Like, right? Like, that's gotta be what he's thinking. Like, anyone in that situation has gotta be thinking that, like, moments before they die. Like, holy shit, like, I've just spent 10 years of marital bliss fucking a gargoyle. And I have 2 gargoyle children. Like, that's gotta be at the top of the thought list running through your mind before she rips his throat out. That's like if you were, like, leaving a bar and you went down an alley with a friend and, like, a fucking cow came out, and just, like, a mutated evil cow, and he decapitated your friend and came up and talked to you and said, like, you better not say anything. You promise that you're never going to tell a living soul? And you go, I promise. And then you meet this gorgeous woman later that night. And it just, your life becomes perfect after that. And just 10 years go by and you get married to her and you have these 2 beautiful kids. And then you end up telling her 10 years later, and then she turns into that cow. The first thought you gotta have, man, is I've been fucking a cow for the last decade. Like, seriously? Like, come on. That has to be the thought going through his head, is that I've been fucking a gargoyle, or whatever the fuck this is. Like, that would shock me more than the whole revelation that, like, my wife is that gargoyle. Just the fact that I've been fucking one for the last 10 years. And she gave birth to 2 of my kids that are fucking gargoyle kids. Like, awesome stuff though, but it's hysterical. And he gets his throat ripped out and it looks really cool. And she flies up through the skylight and then just ends up being perched back on the building with her kids, and that's it. We can't assume what happens after that. Does she ever come back down and repeat the whole process? Like, why did she do it in the first place? Did she just get a glimpse at Preston and she really did like him? And I don't see why she couldn't have just like went up to him and just kind of like cut out that whole gargoyle shit, like, and just turned into the girl and turned into Carola, then just like went up to him and just sparked a relationship from there. I don't know why she had to like do the whole gargoyle thing, come down, chop the guy's head off, all of that. But who knows? There's no motive for this gargoyle. There's no history on it. There's nothing, and that's what makes the mystery of it really intriguing, and it makes it interesting because you don't really want the answers. And then we get the final wraparound ending with little Timmy trying to tell one more story, and the witch tells him that there's no good endings in this book. And he says, well, this story has a good ending. And he starts telling his own story, that his brother was a paperboy and he was sick and that he couldn't get to work that day. So little Timmy had to take his place. And he came up to this house and the witch took him in. And then I love how he starts making up the story, the rest of the story as he goes. Like, he tells it like he's telling a story while he's doing it. Like, he reached into his pocket and he had marbles and they were really slippery and shiny, and threw them on the ground. And then the witch couldn't see them and she stepped and tripped, and then she falls back onto the fucking knives or whatever those are, and wheels her gets the keys, uncuffs himself, wheels her into the oven, and ends up cooking her alive. And then he eats a chocolate chip cookie and breaks the fourth wall and says, don't you love happy endings? I do. And that's a great one. And this is a great movie. What an awesome anthology film. Like I said, the third Creepshow for me, and many others. But what a great trilogy. From Creepshow 1, Creepshow 2, and if you include this one in there, awesome stuff. Like, I'm not huge on anthology movies and horror. I mean, I've seen my fair share, don't get me wrong, but like, it's never been like a go-to subgenre for me. Like, maybe aside from like, if it's like the VHS series, which is more like found footage, but it's like an anthology found footage. So just because I like found footage a decent amount is why I got into those movies, the first 2 especially. I haven't even seen 94, but yeah, never been big on anthologies really, but I mean, Creepshow is the one. Like, that is the horror anthology for me. And then this one and Creepshow 2, just the 3 of them all together makes a great rewatch night. Just throw it on with some friends and watch all 3 of these movies and laugh hysterically and just enjoy these awesome movies. But alright guys, Jason X coming up like right after this, because I watched that a little earlier. So got Jason going to space, and we just got the reboot, and the Friday series will be complete. So hang around a few seconds.